Ooh, Brad, guess who today's video is sponsored by?
Ooh, who?
Nobody! Product placement in movies has been getting all kinds of ridiculous lately. Jurassic World, for example, contains so much ham-fisted product placement, it almost ruined the entire fucking movie. A series of films well known for their product placement are the James Bond movies, which sold out noticeably harder for Spectre, much to the annoyance of James Bond himself.
No, turn this off. This is important.
I said turn it off!
Yeah, I've been watching the recent Bond movies and the product placement is absolutely everywhere.
It is, isn't it? But what you may not have realised is that product placement has always been a part of the Bond movies. It's just that in earlier Bond movies, it kind of made sense.
What do you mean?
Well, like in earlier Bond movies, like there was a lot of product placement for like cars and suits. The difference is obviously you don't notice that because you don't question the idea of James Bond, international super spy, rocking up to a party in an impeccably tailored bespoke suit and a fancy car. You may, however, notice when James Bond, world-famous super spy and alcohol connoisseur, walks up to a bar and orders a fucking Heineken. I should probably point out that that clip was from an ad starring Daniel Craig as James Bond. However, he does drink a Heineken in the movie he was going to promote, although he doesn't order it by name.
How much would it cost to get your shitty beer in with James Bond?
Well, no one really knows, because obviously like Heineken kept the amount they paid the movie studio close to their chest. But rumours are that it cost them in excess of $45 million to have James Bond slurp down their shitty bilge water disguised as beer on camera as James Bond in the ad and in the film itself.
Wow.
Yeah, $45 million to have your beer drunk by James fucking Bond.
Wonder how much people pay us.
What, to drink their shitty beer?
Budweiser.
What, I'm calling it shitty beer on camera? I don't think very much. To be clear, there's no real problem with product placement as long as it's handled well. The problem is a lot of companies are really pissy about how their product is portrayed in TV shows and movies and the like. And as a result, they refuse to have their product shown in anything other than a positive light. That's why in every TV show and movie you've ever seen in which Coca-Cola have paid to have their product featured, every example of a Coca-Cola product on screen will have it with its logo pointed directly towards the camera.
It's kind of weird how there's so many examples of that one very specific trope.
It is, and it's also hilarious how they can almost never get it right. Because obviously, like, anyone who's drank a can of Coke or Pepsi will know, the logo doesn't always perfectly align with, like, the ring pull on top. So that in itself is awkward, because, like, there's no one ever who's drunk a can of, like, Coke or Pepsi and like that, with their head craned all the way to the camera. And I think one of my favourite examples of that is in World War Z, when Brad Pitt drinks the Pepsi.
Oh, the bit towards the end.
And he fucking chugs that shit down like his life depends on it. It's like, this is like, I am earning the $1 million they paid me to do. And he fucking chugs it like a drunk girl trying Jägermeister for the first time. So fair play to him. And it's one of my favourite tropes because like, it always looks awkward, it always looks shit, and you can always tell the person drinking it doesn't actually like that product. Another movie where it's really bad for that is obviously Jack and Jill. Like, they actually, in the middle of that film, they put in an advert for Dunkin' fucking Donuts within the context of the movie. If people haven't seen it, here's a clip.
What's my name? Dunkachino! Dunkachino!
Within the context of the movie, Adam Sandler's character is an advertising executive, so they kind of get away with that, but Dunkin' Donuts did have dollars on that shit. The Power Rangers movie, that's got a really blatant one where Rita Repulsa goes and eats, is it Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts in that one?
I think it's Krispy Kreme.
It might be Krispy, where she goes and eats a Krispy Kreme donut, and she, on camera, like this all happens on camera, and basically like bites it and goes, mmm. Bear in mind, this is a character who murders like 3 people in that movie, so good on you, Krispy Kreme, having a murderer use your products. Awesome.
I don't mind the taste.
Listen, I would respect any company who have the balls to do that. If they had like Brad Pitt or something like that, drink that Pepsi and say to camera, interrupt the movie, cut all the music off, get rid of all the special effects and have his face camera, I don't mind the taste. I will buy that in a heartbeat. That will become the exclusive brand that I drank.
I don't mind the taste.
So we've got a little bit off topic.
Yeah.
Let's get back to...
James Bond and Heineken, yes. Like, as I mentioned, like Heineken paid a lot of money to have James Bond drink their shitty beer in the movie and in an advert. And a lot of fans of the character in the movies felt like this doesn't really fit with the character of Bond. He's supposed to be like an international, suave-ass super spy poonhound. Why is he slumming it by drinking this shit tier beer? And a complaint from a lot of fans was that it's very obvious that this is product placement because it's completely out of character and doesn't fit with the tone of the movies in general.
So do you have an example of product placement which fit better with his character?
Well, yeah, I've got a great example, and it's actually in the advertising for the film itself. For the people at home, like before Spectre came out, you may have seen this image, and like Bond looks pretty fucking badass in that picture. But did you also know that's an advert for a $200 sweater made by N. Peel?
I didn't realise that was meant to advertise a product.
Not a lot of people did, and that's kind of the fucking point. It fits with the character of Bond that he would naturally wear a really expensive fancy sweater, and N. Peel were confident enough in their brand to say, yeah, we'll have Bond wear it, we'll pay you money to have this product featured in the movie, but we don't want to draw attention to it in any way because we feel the quality will speak for itself. And they released their own like series of ads, obviously, with Bond wearing that sweater, advertising like something he wore. But in the movie itself, it's never commented upon at all because the idea is it makes sense for this super suave, awesome dude to wear a fancy-ass sweater.
Suite aux analyses lundi, un diagnostic d'état de stress post-traumatique a été établi.
I think the reason that poster is such a great example of product placement done well is because the actual jumper itself has no branding or logo on it. Because obviously high-class products generally don't have giant, big, garish logos on the front because they feel like the quality will speak for themselves. And I've heard this in regard to stuff like the more expensive and well-made something is, the less it feels the need to advertise the branding. Which is why if you get a really nice bespoke suit, you won't have any branding anywhere on it. You'll have maybe like a little label on the inside of the jacket sleeve where only you can see it. Because I think the reasoning I've heard is like, well-made products, quality speaks for itself. Whereas something like, I don't know, Adidas, I guess, if they'd sponsored Bond, he'd be wearing a fucking full-on tracksuit like he's in Wayne's World or some shit, wouldn't he?
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
Whereas like this N. Peel, they're like, no, we feel like people will look at this, and if people think, hey, that's a nice goddamn sweater, I wonder who made that, they'll type it in, they'll come to our website, and they'll buy it. Another problem with product placement when it's handled by companies who aren't as confident in the quality of their products is they often include exclusivity stipulations in the contracts they make studios sign.
Did N. Peel have one of these in regards to Bond's clothes?
Nope, they just made him wear that one sweater and the production crew were free to dress Bond however they felt like for other scenes. They just wanted that one shot of that one sweater. Do you know who did have an exclusivity stipulation in their contract?
Who?
Fucking Heineken. And that, Brad, is why, in that movie, James Bond doesn't order a vodka martini.
As in the drink he's mostly known for?
Yes, the alcoholic beverage most associated with James Bond is never mentioned by name in that movie because Heineken were so pissy about another alcoholic brand potentially being mentioned that they absolutely refused to let them even mention the words vodka or martini. I'm pretty sure James Bond does drink what you could assume to be a vodka martini because he's shown drinking a clear cocktail out of a martini glass, but it's never mentioned by name because apparently Heineken lives in a world where no other alcohol but theirs exists. Which brings us to Sony.
So what did Sony do?
Well, during the production of Spectre, they approached the director and offered him the fattest sack of cash they could in return for including in the movie a single scene in which James Bond is shown using their new flagship phone, the Xperia Z5. To sweeten the deal, they also offered Daniel Craig himself $5 million.
That all sounds lovely.
So what did the director say?
He said no.
What about Daniel Craig?
He also said no, despite the fact he would have personally made $5 million just for pushing for the scene to appear in the movie.
Do we know why they turned it down?
It's because Daniel Craig and the director both sat down and they discussed like, well, would James Bond use a Sony phone? And they came to the conclusion that actually no, he wouldn't, because James Bond would only use the best.
Oh!
Yes, and that's their reasoning for turning down Sony.
That's painful.
That's fucking brutal, that, innit? Bearing in mind, James Bond drinks Heineken in one of these movies. Oh, that's got a sting, hasn't it?
Oh, especially if you found out that Heineken had already like succeeded.
Yeah, James Bond only uses the best, so he's not going to use your Sony phone as he's sat there drinking a Heineken. It's like, man, we're worse than Heineken. Oh. Some of you watching at home might find yourself thinking, but wait a minute, didn't James Bond actually use a Sony phone during that film? And also, didn't Sony release a series of ads advertising that phone as being fit for Bond? You'd be correct.
Bond, it's Moneypenny. I've got your phone. Will you do me a favour next time? Go and pick it up yourself.
So how did Sony manage to bypass both Daniel Craig and the director saying no to their phone?
Well, despite the lead creative force helping make the movie and James Bond himself agreeing that James Bond would never use a Sony phone because James Bond only uses the best, the studio making the movie only heard the part where Sony offered millions of dollars. I'm also going to guess that the fact that this film was partially funded by Sony Pictures probably had something to do with it.
Yeah, sounds a bit coincidental, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird how a lot of Sony movies also have like all the characters using Sony Vios and Sony phones. Do you know who else like is partially funded by like Sony Pictures?
Who?
All of Adam Sandler's movies.
Really?
Yeah, that's why all Adam Sandler movies are like whorish product placement for like Sony products as well.
What is done cannot now be amended. After our...
Yeah, Ted, I'm looking at it right now. So this was 2 nights ago?
Unfortunately, due to the information in this video being gleaned from those emails that were leaked from Sony a couple of years ago, we actually have no idea what phone Daniel Craig or the director felt Bond would use. However, my personal theory is that he would only use that sick, awesome, invisible, see-through phone used by Iron Man in all the Marvel movies.
Oh, boy, I'm good.
We've spent the whole video shitting on the Xperia. Don't you have one?
Yes, I do. Like, my own personal phone is a Sony Xperia. I don't know which one. I just got the cheapest one that was in the store, and I've had the same kind of phone for years. I won't be the next time I upgrade, though. And do you know why?
Why?
Because Sony decided to get rid of the headphone jack.
Oh, fuck off.
It takes courage, Brad. Did you not know that? It takes courage to get rid of a feature everybody uses on their phone. I use the headphone jack on my phone every single fucking day. So if they remove it, I'm never going to get a Sony phone again.
What fucking use is it going to be for we record onto my phone using a headphone jack?
Because you need the headphone jack to record properly. No, fuck you, buy Bluetooth headphones. Fuck you, Brad. Buy Bluetooth headphones.
I thought the whole point
Buy Bluetooth headphones.
I thought the whole point of after Apple tried to do that was everybody said that it was shit.
Yeah, then Google went and did it with the Google Pixel 2. I think that took the headphone jack off. And then Sony have now done it. And I think their reasoning was, like, you find the quote, because it is up there with pride and accomplishment, and it takes courage as being like the most, like, fuck you, buy our shit response from like a corporate executive where they talk about like, people don't want headphone jacks anymore. Like, people want like we don't want to cling to the past. People want to have like more sleek design and stuff like that. No, fuck you. It just translates to buy our fucking Bluetooth headphones. So I can safely say I will never buy a Sony Xperia phone again, despite using them for years.
What phone do you think you're going to get then?
Whatever one's got a headphone jack and lets me listen to Spotify, because that's all I use my phone for.
I've always had Samsungs.
I don't I've got no problem with I don't really care about my phone. I just want to use it for 3 things: listening to music, checking Twitter and all that bullshit, and taking photos with a half-decent camera that I happen to have on my person all the time. Most phones do that now. I don't really care. So the one that's like, oh, it hasn't got a headphone jack. Well, okay, well, fuck you then. It gets more frustrating for me because I've had, like, I think since I was about, like, I first got a mobile phone, I've had Sony phones because obviously they were Walkman phones originally, and I only use it to listen to music, so they always came with, like, the best, like, memory for, like, storing music on it, and I just stuck with the same brand over the years because why not? And now I won't.
I can understand the appeal of Bluetooth headphones, but all phones have Bluetooth anyway. Why take the jack away?
Because, fuck you, buy Bluetooth headphones. The thing that gets me is, right, I get the idea of like wireless being the future, but do you know what immediately sold me on the fact it's a stupid fucking idea?
What?
I went to the gym once and I saw a guy with those Apple Airbud things in his ears, and I think they cost like $60 fucking a piece. I don't know how much they cost in the UK. Too much, I'm guessing, compared to like the £5 headphones you can get from anywhere else. And I saw him on the running machine. It's like, he's jogging. It's fair enough. See him like dangling his ear. One fell off his ear, landed on the thing, and shot straight behind him. I went, I've never seen that happen to a set of headphones before. Those fucking Airbuds I have, though. Jesus, like, he fell out his ear, landed on the bloody treadmill, Gone. 30 quid. Gone. So imagine dropping your wallet and it's like, oh, I just want 30 quid flies out. It's like, and he was there, he's like crawling around the gym looking for it. He's like, he's looking for a fucking contact lens. Like, yeah, that's the future I want. Crawling around on the floor in a sweaty gym with my ass in the air, like doing the downward dog, looking for a fucking headphone that flew at me and landed like 8 miles away.
You gotta admit though, it sure beats untangling wires every time you want to use them.
No, it doesn't. I never understood. I hate it's like Hoovers. Like people probably, what is like? What's the link here, Karl? It's because fucking Dyson have started this whole thing of wireless Hoovers. Apparently the wire is too much. It like you tethered to the wall, like you're trapped by the wire of the Hoover. And they show people like using like one of their Hoovers that's got like a battery in it, effortlessly sweeping up as a person like just struggles like they're in an infomercial, drowning in wires. And I think to myself like, do you know what batteries do? They've run out. So that means in like 5 years' time, the battery in that Dyson Hoover is going to be so shit that it's not going to hold a charge and you lose all the power to the Hoover. At which point, you have to either go buy a new battery, which is probably going to cost a shit ton at that point, because there'll be a new version that'll be out of date, or a new Hoover. Or you could buy a fucking Henry, because let's say, you know what? We don't advertise the channel, I will fucking shill the shit out of Henry Hoovers. Not only are they practically indestructible, they don't lose power, you can use them to like hoover up almost anything, because they don't need bags. Like, people like Hoover bags, no, fuck that. Take it out of Henry, just like suck it all up and then empty the fucking goddamn Hoover straight into the bin. Those things are great. I have one at home that I inherited from my fucking grandma that's 25 fucking years old and it still works. I got a Dyson off my dad when I moved that broke in like 3 fucking years. It's ridiculous. Like, Henry's the goddamn champ. You can use that thing to hoover up water. It's an electronic device that can use to hoover up water. What else can do that?
Yeah, but as we've heard in one of your previous stories, that doesn't occasionally go well.
That doesn't always go well. Refer to an older video about that. But goddamn, those things are amazing. Yeah. And then you got, oh no, have this one, we got to replace the battery on it. Like, oh, my headphones, I had a set of headphones for like, I think 5 fucking years. That was Sony headphones that I sung the praises of to anyone who'd listen because they cost me a tenner in the last 5 years. I can't wait to have wireless headphones that don't die, just stop charging. I can't wait till I'm listening to music for half an hour at a time.
It's planned obsolescence, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Buy more shit, you fucking arsehole.